So I'm doing kind of like a book analog review on books I finished reading and kind of like a feeling of expression. So where I'm kind of exploring a bit of a superstar player on the NBA called Stephen Curry. Most notable known as the babyface assassin on the court. He became a big dog, and the implication of the player being able to solidify shooting 3-pointers and always being able to surprise people on the court. He has a great record being 2 times MVP and made history in the NBA to get unanimous vote for MVP award. He is reputable with a lot of big, famous, legendary basketball players, and he's known for being a showmanship as well. So his average score points, surprisingly, it's around only 23 points per game, which I feel like he would be scoring at a higher average point on expectations, but it seems like it's settled down. Although he has a lot of great technical skill, he does still appreciate the better veterans in the game courts and known as other legendary basketball players that are famous, even if you are not a hardcore NBA fan. One of the things about Curry apparently that makes him known is not just his athletic basketball skills, but his ability to shoot, to be viral on the internet and having a large follower base on social media. So he's just a bit of a popular guy, maybe because he has a representation of being an underdog in many ways, considering his disadvantage in height in normal in NBA standards. But he's second to even maybe some renowned financial gurus coming lines in comparison. He also has a lot of modesty, and it's kind of shown also in his interviews when he is more reserved and modest about when he kind of opens up and talks about himself and certain things. And he is seen as a bit of a crowd favorite, having also won awards of best basketball shooter, and also breaking the record in NBA currently for the current state for Golden State Warriors. This being a different story at this point, as I think the State Warriors are, I'm not too sure if the State Warriors are still in the leading for their brackets in the championship. Steve Curry's stats, however, has gone down from what the expectation is. He describes himself not being the highest jumper and not being the strongest, and seeing maybe being the player that's most relatable, but at the same time having the more technical skills because, well, generally, he's really great at shooting. He's a legendary on the court. Anybody that's seen videos of Stephen Curry knows that his shots are amazing. Comparable to people who play the game very, very long, which is really impressive, really cool. I think a lot of it does come on grounds that his his ability to shoot 3-pointers is just really amazing. So it's kind of like undermining his current score performance in relation to what you've seen him already do. A good portion of what people say they like about Stephen Curry was that when he plays, he's able to control his presence on the court. So this makes it, in a way, hard to predict because the biggest thing about him is just when he does something, an unexpected move comes out and shines when he's able to play in a way that people weren't expecting from his shooting ability. So his ability to blending crowds makes him, or control his presence, is one of the renewable things that also makes him like a showman that you keep enjoying seeing him play. One of the things that stands out and a lot of people respect for Curry is also one of the reasons why he's seen as a legend or superstar in the current sport that he's played, but his work ethics. Work ethics are one of the things that impresses the most is people, because he practices a lot, and that shows, despite the fact that everybody in the sport would have undermined him because of his stature. And it's very apparent, like, again, he is just not the tallest player in the NBA, but he does things that are just, he's like, even a tall player just couldn't disrespect him, and he could probably outplay a good portion of them, which makes him really make you enjoy seeing that the sport is not linear, as most people can say. It adds a lot of, I think the word is distress from expectations from the sport, and the fact that he can perform despite his small stature is what excites people, and it makes the game really fun to watch. His technicalities to other superstars is different in a certain respect, but it's a lot of us can make that appreciation enjoying the aspects of shooting. He does come from a very well-off family, as most people have said, and his father is the source of where he took roots and inspiration for playing basketball, to later on, whether or not he was able to where he is now. I would say he surpassed his father, really, right? One of the things that's interesting is just like his family shares a strong passions for sports. Not just basketball he plays, but like, I haven't seen him play the other sports that was mentioned in this book. Mostly. Sorry. Interestingly, I did not know this, but like apparently, even the wife of his wife, Sonia Curry, played a lot of sports, and this is how both couples kind of like made their kind of chemistry in terms of getting together and the start of their family and all that. Without too much emphasis in detail about their parents. He also has siblings, but like they're not really emphasized. But like a good portion of like what's driving them for their kind of like status and like respect is the fact of a strong influence and reinforcement of sports, and probably because this has reinforces the way that they are able to be successful in that area, right? Stephen Curry also has a grandfather. It was unfortunate as well, because it turns out there's a huge history of like health concerns, and it took the life of his grandfather, relating to implication that they had to mourn, and decided to bring the implication to be at a different state of America, where legal implications are very common to brought about. It was like he would relate to experience really old school, when the materials from one of the things made in the court were made out of wood. No, one of the things that's really impressive on lines was that he kept his attachments to athletes, and like really respecting their ability to push themselves and like kind of like do things within the sport that is impressive. Never really letting the fame or like the money get the better of how he projects himself. Usually, having not really gone in more detail besides seeing him play in Madness vs. Friday Flesh. A good thing that I could definitely appreciate on the development of Stephen Curry was maybe his resilience and patience, not being the player that kind of like stands out immediately, but likely peaking up later on. And it kind of makes sense given the context of like his stature. But he probably did work hard to really stand out to where he is now, despite the implication that knowing that there are better players before that. He does imply that he has a great admiration because his father introduced him to the sport. So it's pretty obvious that he surpassed his father at this stage in terms of being a better player. Interestingly enough, even though it was, he's never highlighted for like his educational progress, he did get recruited a lot for like college, looking for him to make a choice for, what do you call it? Recruitment letters. I forget what it's called when the college brings in because of a player's sportsmanship ability to stand out. But he had a really great, promising future from his skills from all the way from high school. So though he doesn't stand out in the standards that he was expected because he was already ingrained in that kind of like strong environment for basketball. He later on peaked out. What that is what's really amazing. The fact that he, like, on high level performances, he managed to become one of the best. So good. One thing that was interesting is that he never really showed it, but Steve Curry also went through different amounts of projections, and it upset him. It never let him question his passion and enjoyment for playing the sport. And it's really, again, I'd say it's pretty amazing considering that he didn't get deterred off. And I would say it's a good, like, a family reinforcement of positive emotions and enjoying the sport. So the surreal moment is how Stephen Curry described the date in 2009 when he was sitting in a green room with his family and heard his name called as an NBA's number 7 draft pick. I felt the need to highlight this really, really well in anticipation of like doing this book review. There was never an end to the opportunities where Curry used religion to thank for all the achievements that he's gotten in life.
Change here for
I'm not too sure, but like he says, a product of like setting a training regime seemed to be a target. 40 minutes and not he would practice, and he did a lot of shots to the point of saying 10,000 shots at the gym in the hopes to meet to NBA standards. Comes in lines talking that he actually did encounter an injury, and it did cause a good portion of like his stability in the sport. It was an ankle sprain. He had an ankle break and a torn ligament led to indication that he would require surgery. There's physics involved into it as well. So he talks about physical discomfort. Because of that, Stephen Curry played it. Alicia, who is Stephen Curry's childhood crush, who they later on married, knew that it was a trick when all the girls were giving attention to Curry. So she wisened up and knew that was not the direction for him. It does come in line that they did have a very initial, like being his first romantic interest, they did have kindling cute interactions at the start, from like doing naive stuff or like an expressions on third things. I guess in lines he said during Christmas, Steph finally said, "I love you" to Alicia, and she knew that he meant it, which was crushing. What added emphasis to Stephen Curry's proposal was that he did it when it was raining. So, it adds to the atmosphere that he knew the best season to proclaim his love. Good chance that Stephen and Alicia did marry at a very young couple age, which is younger than the average of expectations. Marrying at the early 20s, both of them. And the other part never saw any issues about marrying young. It is very difficult from certain standpoints to say that they would be devoted lovers for lifetime for certain things. They were very modest in education, which I think the impression that might be something of the initial relationship expectations for most couples going through the honeymoon phase at the start.
You just stay in there, Rosie.
This is the London Overground service to Richmond. Next station is Alton Central. You must have a valid or exit card to use the train. If not, you may have to pay a extra fare. Thank you.
It says you have to have either a ticket or
Kurt at the start was a very traditional man. He did a lot of things like taking photos and videos, cooking, doing romantic dancing, and even singing for his wife, Elisha. And they would often be talking about how they grew with social media, being able to project these forms of adoration. And so it talks about a funny story in Lightning's too. Apparently, Curry has a tattoo and he shares one with his significant other. And that's a very, very funny story to why they decided to get together. So this is interesting because he is a dad and he has 2 daughters. And he remarks that even as a parent, he found that his children are growing really fast. And I've seen a few snippets where he takes care of his daughter, who is the oldest one is called Riley, who has been approached for advertisement and endorsements. It's true, I forgot his daughter's called Riley. Well, as a parent would take advantage of this kind of opportunity, Stephen always thinks twice. His father's philosophy revolves around protecting the welfare of his children in every possible way. And he does make the appreciation of, because of his fame, transitioning can affect the upbringing of how his kids may develop. So Stephen's first daughter, Riley, was born in July 1912. Oh, cool. Second daughter, being Brian Carlson, was born on July the 10th, 2015. So about 3 years difference. Oh, interesting. And they have a very healthy family. He also has a boy family with a company called Canon. He does play a big part of being encouragement for his kids, and he does think about whether their well-being for their well-being was me having no idea actually how he wants their kids to pursue their direction in life for where they want to make themselves as individuals. At the moment, it says he's happy seeing his kids happy, and he doesn't really think more about it than he needed to. A good portion of his enjoyment does come in seeing his kids grow up and seeing them become who they are. So he does take a temperamental implication on things that are too inappropriate for kids at a certain age, and he does have a kind of very strong view on paternal guidance for his kids. Apparently Riley has taken issues with his father and given him a bit of attitude as well. No, I didn't expect that. He doesn't seem to take any huge attachment or of having his kids develop in a way that everyone else thinks. He feels a bit more lax, and it seems he picks his battles on how he wants his kids, whether there's controversy on how his kids are developing or not. He doesn't believe in anything being perfect, nor does he care. And he's okay with kids making mistakes along the way. He thinks to go based on his own intuition and bias of what he has for himself, which is a fair implication as it is his kids and his decisions. Plus, he's generally quite wealthy, so he has every right to make a choice about how he wants his kids to be guided. So this a big curiosity comes in lines of does his kids follow in his passion for basketball himself? And he says it's just one of the ways he's bonded with them. But to my knowledge, they're still too young to really enjoy basketball. He thinks that he does think a lot of not playing enough of a part in his kid's life, and he thinks it's a big thing that he personally has a lot of attachment in that representation.
Sorry, just me.
He does make the effort, despite being very busy and a professional athlete, to see his kids' face every day, which is pretty interesting. I feel that is something hard if you're a celebrity and a very popular basketball player. And he does play a good role of just really caring. He really does care about his kids, which is one thing anyone can take a stance of being pretty alpha in an attitude for those kind of circumstances. He has never been. He does come from a very well family, and I think he takes that implication of like still keeping in lines of like being able to do education in lines and in his parenting, and whether they decide to pursue this further in their development or not is up to them. But I think he does make it appreciate that you can do both, really, which is kind of like an elitist mindset from my standpoint. So yeah, I think it does show that he has an elitist state of mind. Oh, sorry. The movie looks interesting. So for both of the parents, they kind of have a co-parenting act, which I'm not sure what that implies. Stephen Curry is currently a good portion of influence of today's youth culture, being a huge representation and also an underdog and an innovator of like unexpectedness despite his height for the scene in basketball. It's interesting because I know LeBron does this as well, but they do come and participate in youth category groups for lower division for basketball. He's done an online training program with lessons. I'm not too sure. I think I might have come across this interesting thing that you see, like training regimes. Probably a lot of influence to how he's kind of drilled to become the better player. If you're decently wealthy, why not try, I guess. And I like this part. He does talk about mindset in the courts, and this is also a good portion of like enjoyment, thinking how you're moving in the court to be able to play to your advantage in playing the game. There's no doubt, and also in my mind, when it comes down to say that Curry is still a huge influence in the sport now. And his enjoyment, proven by his skills, is a good show of why he loves the sport, because he's so good at it.
And what?
So the media kind of describes certain aspects, I guess, like in what's public saying called the Steph effect. He has developed a really good reputation and credibility over the years, and a lot of like even now like sponsorship does follow him a lot for certain things. Like when I was in Canada, I remember the peak of it 2 years ago, because he beat the world record for like free throws. I got myself a Steve Curry shirt knowing this is an iconic number 30, and I was turning 30 as well at the time. As a comical joke meme here, but like no, I'm just messing. But like it's interesting. I was curious a lot of like what are the influences that Curry had in detail in lines of like where he got where he is really. Steve Curry has been working with Nothing But Nets campaign. I don't know if that's referring to Brooklyn Nets or not, or something else. And it's nations to help families in Africa from malaria. Okay, that's fair. That is something we come across in our studies as well for medical. It does come in lines that they use a lot of things such as vectors, such as mosquito nets, or I don't think they'll ever wipe out the cases of malaria in those countries. They can keep doing preventive measures. It's kind of hard, right? And better hygiene practice. I don't really know the current up-to-dates, but we do learn about malaria. Even if in the West it's not a frequent disease that we come across in lines of needing to figure out how to diagnose or recognize. He's also part of an organization called Players that discourages youth development on violence prevention for maybe kids that are more unfortunate express themselves in ways that are a bit more crude in lines of expressing themselves. He does enforce education being a center and being a reading tutor, which I didn't expect. He's also done long lines of donations and center for hosting golf tournaments, which also is very apparent that he plays a lot. I think I saw a clip about it, but Stephen Curry had made some